Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. How is everybody doing today? I trust everybody is doing fine. Anyway, folks, let me get this camera adjusted. It seems like it. That's interesting. How did that happen? I don't know. Well, I think I may have it adjusted a little. I may have bounced it. There we go. Ahí no moto, lo tengo ahora preparado perfectamente, que está enlineado para verme a la cara. All right, welcome aboard. Bruce Potter says, ready for the big deed, big debate. Yes, let me welcome everybody first that's here so far. Welcome aboard, Bruce Pollard from Kingwood, Texas, Eric Hayes from Atascocita and Kingwood, Texas. We also have Paul Fleming Sr. from Powder Springs, Georgia. We have Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. Melanie, it's not Friday. It is Tuesday. May Wood from Long Beach, California. We have Michael Rutden from Brooklyn, New York. We've also got para ver. I think I got everybody. Did I get everybody? I think I got everybody. You want to see a word salad? Just go listen to how Trump answered that question about childcare. That's all you got to do. You want a word salad? Childcare turned into tariff, frack, and everything in between. Word salad? I guess you guys are always looking in the mirror. Carl Cox from Riverdale, Georgia. Whenever you're pointing a finger, they're 4 pointing back, because the only person that speaks in salads is, of course, Trump. And we're welcoming somebody with a new name, Vivi Valentin from Denise, Petaluma, California. And we also have, Denise is, I guess, your name. And we also have in the house is Mike Cisak. All right. I'm actually going to watch a debate tonight. Something about train wreck about to happen with Harris is drawing me in. It seems like you have the same concern Bridge has, where she says, don't underestimate Trump. I beg to differ. There's nothing Trump can do based on his intellect that will actually stumble over on Kamala. Unless Kamala gets a heart attack or a stroke, the only thing that could possibly allow Trump to do well is the coverage. It's the moderators making sure to put a wrench in the gear. That's the absolutely only thing. Trump doesn't have the intellect to debate. They talk about how he won the debate against the Republicans, etc. No, he never won any debate. What happens is we have lowered the bar to make gibberish and performative stuff seem to have factual information. When he debated Bush, when he called it low calorie Bush or whatever he said, or little Marco or all those things, that the mainstream media called that a win. It's not on those Republican politicians. It's on the mainstream media. So yeah, they call it a win for Trump. But in intellectual response, in reality, he was a failure on all those debates. Everybody in those debates had more intelligent things to say than Trump. But because our media is made up of a whole bunch of jocks that themselves don't know how to do things in detail, of course, Trump bullies somebody and makes fun out of them. Oh, he won the debate. But if that same debate was held at a university, where points are really given for success or failure, there is not a chance in hell, or heaven for that matter, that Trump could win a debate. He is simply intellectually deficient. And I'm not saying that out of spite. I'm not saying that out of hate. I'm just saying factually, he does not have much upstairs. And Bridge asked me to put this on the screen. Says, he started believing things I knew weren't true. At first, I thought it was Alzheimer's. Then I realized he was watching Fox News. There you go. That says it all. That is a very important meme. Fox News makes you dumb. Ellen Jones, welcome aboard. Ellen, where are you from? Egberto, your opinion isn't very factual. Actually, it is. It is a factual opinion based not on a short amount of time. It is a fact that if I take this phone and release it, it will fall. Now, here's the thing. The gravitational laws could somehow change overnight. The things that we don't understand about physics could change overnight, such that if I drop this phone, if I release this phone, it falls up. But based on current laws and how things work, this phone, if I release it, will fall to the ground. If Trump opens his mouth, gibberish comes out. That is what's been happening for decades now. And thus, if sometime he opens his mouth and that doesn't come out, that would be a change in equivalent to a change in the laws of nature. So yes, based on the definition of fact, sir, yes, I think I have you beat there. Okay, let's continue. Ella Jones, welcome to Politics Done Right. I think I saw somebody else. Para ver quién más está aquí. ¿Quién más está con nosotros? ¿Quién más está con nosotros? Okay. Anyway, folks, I've got 2 videos, but I'm going to play the 16-minute video first. Welcome aboard, Stygen Burger Creek. I think he's in the house. And let's see what else we got. Fleming says extreme MAGA Republicans are claiming voter fraud before ballots are even cast in November. These unpatriotic election deniers are completely unfit to govern. They are unfit to govern. Bridge MCP says opinions are if you like apples or oranges. Facts is proof. H2O is water, not opinion. Very true. Very true. You got it, Bridge MCP. You got it. And if somebody is mentally deficient, based on things. And by the way, water is H2O, and if you drop water, it falls. Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's see. For your information, soy boricua. Ay, corazón, eres boricua. ¿De qué ciudad en Puerto Rico eres? ¿O aún vives en Puerto Rico o estás aquí en los Estados Unidos ahora? Anyway. Love my boricuas, man. Me gusta las boricuas. Mis boricuas tienen salsa. Me gusta la ropa vieja y sabe que tienen ese cake con, ¿cómo se dice? Con bacalao. No recuerdo cómo lo llaman. Ay, fui a San Juan. Barranquitas, okay. In San Juan, I had this codfish fried cake. The best. I had it right there on the moor, on, where you have the fort. Beautiful. Puerto Rico is a beautiful place that America is not doing what's a responsible thing to do. I hope Puerto Rico becomes the 51st state and DC becomes the 52nd state. Because you know what? We need representation. All right. Okay. Let's go for our first video. It's an interview that I did with John Pavlovitz this morning. It was a very important interview, and it goes like this. Why is the race so close? Oye, Vivi, nada más vino tu nombre, no vivo tu cosa. Agreed. There you go. All right, let's go ahead and play the video, very important video, and then we'll take it on the other side. All right, ready to go? There we go. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto, Willies, your host. Today we have a special guest. John Pavlovitz is a writer, pastor, activist, and storyteller from Wake Forest, North Carolina. Over the past decade, his thought-provoking blog, Stuff That Needs to Be Said, has reached a diverse worldwide audience of well over 100 million views. A 25-year veteran in the trenches of local church ministry, Pavlovitz is committed to equality, diversity, and justice, both inside and outside faith communities. His books include Worth Fighting For, A Bigger Table, Stuff That Needs to Be Said, and If God is love, don't be a jerk. He currently directs Empathetic People Network at a vibrant online community that connects people from all over the world who want to create a more compassionate planet. Pavlovitz Substack, The Beautiful Mess by John Pavlovitz, is a must-read every single day. Good morning, Senor Pavlovitz. How you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me again, my friend.
Well, before we get started, I want you to go through a short synopsis of how you got to where you are today, because you were once a pastor, a youth pastor in a mega church, and something caused you to make a sort of a turn. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. I had been in pastoral ministry for about, I guess, close to a decade, and came into ministry, did not suspect to be doing that work, was sort of drafted into it, and went with very different eyes than many people raised to want to be in ministry. I had maybe different questions about the church and different tensions. And I started to realize the further I got into church ministry that there were often values that I believed were inherent in the words of Jesus that weren't being lived out in the global or collective church. And so I began feeling that tension and wanting to press more into those places of equality and diversity that I was not seeing in the church. And then that sort of set up an oppositional force that I did not expect. And I leaned into that. And that has on this journey of trying to find a faith that really embodies the heart of Jesus rather than an Americanized version of it.
Now, how would you define that, the way that objection or that objection that you felt? Because I think people have a hard time. I mean, look, for those who are Christians, the Bible is not a very difficult book. It's I have a friend that says the book speaks more about love than anything else. It doesn't seem like it should be hard.
It shouldn't be. And I think what's happened over 2,000 years, but specifically a couple hundred years here in America, the religion has become synonymous with power, and whether that power is through economics or through race or through gender, it's become something that Jesus never intended. The movement of the Gospels was a movement of the street. It was person to person. It was about interdependent community rather than some top-down authoritarian expression. Especially, it was not something that was meant to be mandated for other people. And I think you see the worst of religion in America is trying to legislate religion for other people. And I believe that faith is a choice. It's a personal decision, and it should not be something that is, mandated by government.
Now, the church doesn't have or it's ever stated anything about rugged individualism, does it? It actually talks more about community. Isn't that a truth?
Yes. And I think that's where sometimes the semantics of the traditional American dream runs in opposition to the teachings of Jesus, because the American dream is about get yours. It's about competition, not collaboration, or at least it can be often interpreted that way, or that I need to accrue resources or wealth or opportunity. And the idea that if someone else has those things, it must mean I'm losing something. So there's an adversarial situation that develops in the American culture that was really not present in the teachings of Jesus.
That is amazing. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on today is because, I read your Substack because I always find them not only entertaining, but actually thought it puts you it makes you think. And you wrote one that is about the current election. And you said, how is the race so close? You know how. And when I sent you an email, I told you, I cut out 3 paragraphs and I said, these 3 paragraphs are the ones that gives me hope. I think your analysis was perfect, but these 3 paragraphs give me hope that, yes, we can supersede what's happening. So why don't you tell me, why is the race so close between somebody that is absolutely qualified and somebody that have run the country as unqualified in nature and wants to run it again, probably even less qualified than they were in their unqualified state?
Well, I think there are a variety of reasons that I try to, detail in the writing. And one is that we know that racism, that misogyny, that xenophobia, they're embedded in our culture, and that those are blind spots because many people have been raised within those mindsets. And so they can't see that they are now living in a way that is antithetical to what America at its best should be about, to that diversity and that welcoming of the outsider, that care for our neighbor, that lifting up of the poor and the vulnerable. And so there's a hostility that's been built in because I think fear has been such a part of the worst of religion and the worst of politics here. And it's made people believe that they are always in danger of their neighbor rather than seeing their neighbor as someone they can learn from and live life alongside. And then you have the idea of authoritarianism that is so embedded in evangelical culture that wants an authority figure, someone to say, this is how I'm going to do everything for you. And they're responding to, a candidate who is saying, I will solve all these dangers myself. And that's something that's comforting for people. And so they'll easily embrace that without realizing that person or that movement is actually predatory toward them. So there's just a couple of thoughts that I have as you mentioned that.
No, I thought there's one particular paragraph that I love because you put it in a manner that isn't upsetting, but it's really an admonition. You said it is close because America has slowly produced millions of intellectually lazy people who don't want to take the time and care to wade into the complexities of issues, the details of policy, or workings of our government. That is profound in that life is complex and we live in a complex economic system. Yes. And just getting basic answers are not enough. I mean, inflation was high. It didn't start now. There were the precursors to inflation. You have to understand that if you want to go ahead and assign blame.
And that's so true. And then that's partly related to the authoritarianism, to the fear, because people want that easy answer that's going to soothe them in the discomfort that we all have in living. And so many people, whether it's laziness, whether it's selfishness, or whether it's simply being apathetic, they don't want to wade into complex issues because that takes time. It derails your schedule and your day. If you really want to understand something about our economic system, about the way our government works, that's an investment. And many people simply don't feel they have the time or don't want to take the time. And as a result, they want the soundbite, they want the slogan. And what that does is it seeds our intellectual capacity to understand. And then we just become people who want something in 30 seconds or less. And that's just not how the world works. And we should want leaders. We should want politicians who have complex thoughts because these are complex problems. And that's what we should demand, actually.
You also mentioned about the role of the media, specifically right-wing media. I'm going to up that a bit and say it's not only right-wing media, but I think what should be our fourth estate has failed us miserably. And one of the reasons I think your Substack and your platform, the different platforms that you work on as well as my platforms, are so much more important now. Because again, the mainstream media seems to live within some sort of a cocoon where they all parrot the same thing, either a little bit to the right, way to the right, or a little bit, but never in such a manner to educate, but simply to pass on information, not doing the role that they're supposed to do. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, yes. And I think part of it is we know that media outlets have been now, conglomerates are now purchased by, many right-wing people. And the goal of media in general is to keep eyeballs to the screens or keep people engaged. And the only way you do that sadly, is by creating the noise or perpetuating the most defaming or the most violent. And so what that does is it makes the really important stuff seem boring. And I think there's a myopia that the mainstream media has because they want an election that's close all the way to the end. And so to do that, they will lift up something that really should not be lifted up. They'll bring in ideas that really don't belong or maybe aren't even based in fact. They'll just know that they get people excited. And that excitement, it doesn't matter if it's anger or it's joy. They want that because it draws attention. Whereas someone like you or me, we have a responsibility to our audience that's very personal. Our name is on it. And so we are very careful with what we say and how we say it. And rather a faceless, nameless media conglomerate does not feel that. And so that's sad that we've become that.
You know, it's interesting. Jumping back to the causes why she's not ahead, where you mentioned race earlier today on my program. One of my producers, I think he sort of took exception to us using race as an issue as to why so many people have been gravitating towards Donald Trump. And, I didn't have the time to quite tell him, but it's because of his own good heart that he couldn't see that, because he rates everybody the way he sees the world. He sees the world as a white guy. He sees the world. He thinks everybody thinks like him. And he doesn't see that, well, there are other folks that don't have that level that don't have that level that you have, where you see people as people and not as the other. What's your thoughts on that?
That's really important to understand. And as someone who has been a pastor in large churches, mostly predominantly white churches in the South, I lived around and ministered to thousands of really decent, good people whose story is that they are trying to make the world better. The problem has been that they have been raised for so long in that culture of fear that I mentioned that they automatically have a response to someone with brown skin or someone who's an immigrant or someone who's female or LGBTQ. And those things are just innate in them. And so it's trying to get people to step out of the story that they've been raised in and realize that maybe they're not thinking as clearly or objectively as they could. And so this is not about bad people. It's about good people raised in a bad story. And I think so many white people, white Christians have been raised in a story that told them that they were the baseline for normal and decent. And then there were people who were coming to take that away from them or threaten them. And it's just simply, no one is at their best when they're afraid.
You know, something I want to end with three of your paragraphs that I think it gives hope, and not only gives hope, but I think is what I call the core. You said, so while we can all be saddened and worried and pissed off that we are fighting like hell for the slimmest margins of victory here when we should be resting in a coming landslide, we shouldn't be shocked. This is who we have been and still are, but it is not who we can become. The fact that we are in this race, despite candidate changes and gerrymandering and voter suppression and Russian interference and media bias and electoral college obstacles, show that the tide is turning here, that equity and empathy are gaining ground, that goodness is beginning to trend. That tells me, that is hopeful. That tells me we are doing what we need to do to go ahead and make that a reality.
That is the hope, my friend. And we just, it's about getting up every day and saying, what kind of world do I want my children and other people's children to inherit? What legacy do I want to leave? Is it one of cruelty or empathy? And for me, the choice is easy.
John Pavlovitz, I always have a last question. What should I have asked you that I didn't?
What is the most challenging part of the work that you're doing right now?
So let me hear it.
I would say that's a great question. I would say it's helping people across from me politically or theologically to understand that I am for them, that I am not in competition with them, that I want a cleaner planet for their kids as well as mine. I want affordable health care for their families and mine. I feel like I am fighting alongside them, not with them. And that's what I hope they can see in my words, that I believe that I'm for them.
John Pavlovitz, writer, pastor, activist, storyteller, and remember, folks, you got to check out the Substack, The Beautiful Mess by John Pavlovitz. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Always a joy, Egberto. Thank you.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. Let's see. You guys have been pretty active talking here. Faravet. It's time for us to call out. Before I do that, let's go to Paul Fleming, who says, new. In a win for voters, Georgia just dismisses lawsuit from a Republican Fulton County Election Board member who refused to certify the county's May primary, asking the court to rule that she has a legal right to refuse to certify. These people are nuts. Let's continue. Gaza. Let's get to E2247. E2247 points out the sad reality. Day 340 of the war, at least 41,020 Gazans killed. 1,123 persons more than day 311. At least 94,925 wounded. 6,628 persons more than day 311. 135,945 casualties. That is equivalent to 6% of the total Gaza population, which is a shame. 79% of those are kids and women. You know what? It's out of the news. It's not as much in the news anymore, but the pain and suffering goes on. And let me just say one other thing, E2247. Right now, we are concentrated on Gaza because, again, we know about Gaza, right? But do you know that worse atrocities right now are happening in Sudan? Do you know that worse atrocities are happening in several other Asian and African countries around the world? Unfortunately, as former President Carter said, at any given time, there are several hundred wars or skirmishes going on around the world. And we cover so little of them. Unfortunately, in fact, we are the supplier of a lot of those killing weapons that are used in these things. So while we ought to keep the pressure on, and while we ought to continue letting folks know about Gaza and the terror that's been inflicted by the genocide effected by Netanyahu, let's remember and be humble in knowing that around the world, sometimes even here in our own hemisphere, there are killing fields as well that we should concern ourselves over. And maybe some one of our good people here can do the research, and just like E2247 brings those numbers to us every day, maybe we can get someone to help out and bring us numbers of other conflicts that are going through the world. Bring us links of other conflicts that are going through the world. You won't find it necessarily in our newspapers here in the United States, but you'll find them in the newspapers in Central America, South America, Africa, and probably some English versions of Chinese newspapers. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Eric Hayes and those long things. Nobody's going to read that, Eric. You have to give us a short synopsis and a link. I don't know what that's all about. Let's see what else we got. Michael Rudden says, E22, as it comes to Israel-Palestine, I'm mad both Biden and Trump, but Kamala Harris is a vice president and has no bearing on the situation, the ethnic cleansing, the ongoing genocide. The vice president doesn't dictate policy. The vice president usually goes along with whatever the president does until the next election. I'm willing to give Kamala Harris a chance to remedy things, though those in Gaza and the West Bank will have a difficult time waiting for January 20th. Look, that is the only choice. If you go ahead and beat up on Kamala, and okay, whatever happens and she loses support and Trump wins, you think what do you think is the outcome? There are times there are only, again, you can throw your hands up. I don't have, when I say I'm talking to people that I am really concerned about representing. I don't have the privilege of saying, I'll throw my hands up in the air. If Trump happens to win, we wait 4 more years and we get back at it. Some people can't afford that. Some activists who want to be gung-ho and they just want things the way they wanted yesterday, they have that privilege that they can live through the pain. The people I work for, most Americans, their life will be somewhat better with Kamala over Trump. And my only goal in life is to do what I can do as being a part of making life better for most. All right, let's see what else we got here. Lee Grant says, I hope Kamala can address the border issue and armed gangs taking over apartment buildings. You better stop watching right-wing media, because that is another story to get you guys, as brother Pavlovitz says, to just make you scared. Oh, those foreigners are coming over here and hurting us. You know, that is old, that is cheap, and that is, and I love you, but that is intellectually lazy, because that is not what's happening. It's intellectually lazy, just like John Pavlovitz was just talking about. It's intellectually lazy because you guys allow yourself to be polluted by Fox News, right-wing media that lies to you day in and day out. They give you clips of things that make them seem believable. You believe it. You put the crap out all over the internet, and you pollute the internet with misinformation. The only reason I address some of it is simply for our listeners and podcasts otherwise to just kind of clean some of it up for them. Okay? Thank you for giving me the kudos for the interview, Bridge MCP. All right, what else have we got here? Denver Post, fact check. Is Aurora overrun by a gang of illegal immigrants? Of course not. The conservative and liberal mayors of Aurora and Denver have come together to dispel the sensationalized reports of rampant gun violence. It is bunk. And they fall for it every single time. And when John Pavlovitz says that you're intellectually lazy, I think he's being kind. I think many of you want to be misled. And Fox News knows it. Many of you choose to be misled because it fits your narrative. Many times, and I say this with love, many times you have a racist narrative, and it gives you a reason to justify your racism, your prejudice. So you can say, you see, that's what it is. No, accept your own racism, like I accepted my own homophobia and cured it. But if you don't want to cure yourself of that intrinsic cancer, it's not going to happen. You're going to be able to use the right wing will be able to continue enslaving your mind because you want your mind to be enslaved. I'm sorry. That's how it is. Vivi Valentin says, I'm sorry, Mr. Pavlovitz. Anyone who supports evil is evil. There is no dump supporter that I respect. I get where you're coming from, Vivi. I differ. I have grace. I believe in having grace. I am sure we have a couple of gay folks in our chat that I'm sure based on my confessions of my past, even though it's been decades past, where I came from a Latin American country, which is implicitly, many of them, homophobic and sexist, and I've extricated sexism and homophobia from my being. I am glad to see that I have been given grace by the brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ community and the assertive sisters that have said, good, you're no longer sexist, you're now an honorary woman. Okay? So I get you, Vivi, and you don't you can keep that regards, right? But my job as an activist is to constantly try to bring people into the fold. Bring people into the fold. All right, let's see what else we got here. Okay, let's see. Para ver. Paul Fleming says 2 video clips from police body cams released today. One of the interactions with Colt Gray and his dad months before the Appalachia school shooting, and the other Tyreek Hill traffic stop. Very different demeanor from the police. One situation should have been taken much more seriously and ended terribly, and the other should have been a ticket that was blown well out of proportion. Yeah, exactly. And, I had to, Stephen Smith, I sent him a tweet last night because his comment was, well, if you take a look at Tyreek Hill, he was didn't do what the officer said. He's not a slave or a puppet. Good for the people in the Twitter feed. They sent a lot of videos showing white guys beating the crap out of cops or slapping them or doing all kinds of stuff to these cops. And these cops never thought about using their tasers or their weapons. But if it's somebody else, they're right and ready to do it. Yvette Avery Herod, I just saw your name in here. Beautiful. Welcome aboard Politics Done Right. All right, let's see what else we got here. Scrolling down before I go to the next video. Egberto, you're just in denial. No, actually, my dear CSAC, you're not only in denial, my brother. You need an intervention. And I hope that intervention would be here. Because at least here you're going to get some love. Other places you'll just get the crap beaten out of you with some of the things that you say. But here you will get love. Breed says kids go to school and come back with gender surgery. Babies are killing after being born. Immigrants are killing people, etc., etc. Wrong BS. What the heck is wrong with you people? Breed, again, they want to be misled, Breed. It's that racist bone that is yet to be mitigated. They want to be misled. It's their racist, sexist, homophobic bone. That's why they go after trans, immigrants, and people of color. That's just how it is. So, I mean, and I'm just saying it, right? And again, like I said, a lot of my buddies are racist. They don't quite believe that they are, but they are. The first time they hear crime, they associate crime with blackness, poverty with blackness, and crime and poverty with blackness and brownness, not realizing that they form a part of the largest poor group on the planet, in the country. But again, it does something for them because of that insecurity. Bruce Fowler said, where I visited last week, many people believe that it is possible for non-citizens to vote or register to vote. Both cases are almost impossible. Again, they want to believe it. They want to believe that. They deep inside know it's false. Egberto Willies, Fox News is not new stuff. They admitted they were entertainment and paid dearly for it. Yeah, almost $1 billion. All right, let's see. Vivi Valentin says armed immigrants are not taking over apartment buildings. How effing stupid. I did know one place that was taken over by local gangs, not foreigners. Exactly. And you know what? It's so funny, Vivi. I love when our red, white, and blue Americans, the ones that love to fly that flag. I was driving down Interstate 69, also known as 59 here, leaving Kingwood to go to Houston. And there's this van with a American flag on it and a big picture of Kamala with a cross or something through it. Hate Kamala, right? And I am sitting down saying, and these are the guys that carry AR-15s and all of that, right? These are the guys who kill people. They like to talk about those immigrants that are coming over here undocumentedly. These guys are coming to get a job. They're coming to work, all that good stuff, right? Most of them are. Just like you have crooked Americans in foreign countries, you have crooked foreigners in our country. A few, not the majority. But you have Americans killing Panamanians, where I'm from, that is. You have Americans killing Panamanians. You don't see Panama goes ahead and say, oh, we need to get rid of the Americans because... no, you don't. Now, here's the deal. The American spirit, however, when they first came over here, they came to conquer, genocide, and enslave. That was the modus operandi of the original settlers of this place, the people that weren't originally from here. And sometimes you wonder if the people that hate these undocumented workers so much so, they're projecting that these people somehow behave the way their ancestors behaved as they came into a land that wasn't theirs. It's amazing, right? I want you guys to think this through. Those people coming from south of the border, in the aggregate, they're not coming to inflict harm on anybody. They want a job. They want economic prosperity, something that many a times our policies took away from their countries. When your forefathers came here, they came, they maimed, they killed, they conquered, they enslaved, they genocided. So please be careful with the way you speak. Tom Sarnick has a limerick that I must read. Hello, Tom. How are you doing, my brother? Let's get started with Tom's limerick. It goes as follows. And I'm going cold turkey, Tom. I haven't read it at all. Trump's rambling campaign speech he calls The Weave stitches together crazy, unrelated things you can't believe. But when he's done talking, what seems patently absurd supposedly becomes a marvelous flying carpet of words. Or is it really a tattered tapestry of lies? Or a putrid word stew attracting flies? Just like Trump's weave of fake hair that sits atop a head, bald and bare, his weave of deceit and threats makes me sick enough to heave. You nailed it again, Zarnik. You nailed it again, Zarnik. You nailed it. You nailed it. That was really good. I even enjoyed reading that for the very first time. That was beautiful. All right. Bruce Pollard said, I'm a voter registrar and every registration form is checked against a list of U.S. citizens before it is reviewed. Every voter in person identifies themselves. Mail ballot are only sent out to registered voters and tested against public-private key encryptions. So if there is something false, it is not a non-citizen. You know, look, Bruce, you are a hero. You are working the lines. Don't let these folks get on your, it's not worth, look, there is no voter suppression. There is voter suppression. There's no voter fraud. And most of the voter fraud is being affected by those who support Donald Trump. They are projecting. Don't even bother answering that junk. All right, let's see what else we got. Bergen Greek says, I just hope Harris administration will focus on extradition if MAGA from public life. This insanity cannot continue. Here's the deal. Burger Greek. This is not new. Okay. It was likely even worse during the Red Scare back in the 1920s. I believe with McCarthy. These the people were just as dumb but they chose to be dumb. Remember, when I say people are dumb with these policies, I'm not talking about they being inherently dumb. I mean, they choose to be dumb because of their own prejudices. That's what I really mean. And you know what happens? They die off from embarrassment because there are some people who initially believe till they do their research and then they change. And when they change, by then all is left are those people holding the bag. Like after Kamala wins this time around, Trump would have lost 3 times. the people that support Trump would have lost several times, meaning from the governor of North Carolina to the senator in Arizona. These are people that are going to be going down hard. And the Liz Cheneys of the world, while they won't be able to recreate, while they probably won't be able to save the Republican Party, they may go ahead and institute something new and just call it Republican or something else. I don't know. But it won't last. Again, it'll die off. What we have to do, Steigen, is be strong. We have to understand and take on the wave, and not fear, not cower at all. Not at all. Vivi Valentin says, didn't you read that immigrants are eating people? No, actually they're eating your cats and dogs, man. I mean, these people, it shows you how, I don't even think we can call it gullible. It's not gullible we can call this, okay? It is willful ignorance, okay? That's what it is, willful ignorance. All right, continue. Let's see if I got anything else to read before I go to the last video. Let's see. All right, okay. All right, let's go ahead and do the last video. Okay, let's see first. Paul Fleming says a 15-year-old boy is in critical condition after he was shot at his high school in Omaha, Nebraska on Tuesday, police said. Sad. All right, let's go ahead and play the last video. I was supposed to play this one yesterday, but we ran out of time, and we're about to again. Recently, Morning Joe had David French, an opinion columnist, conservative opinion columnist from the New York Times, on with Max Boot, who just wrote a book about Reagan. And I want you to first listen to this, because what David French was originally stating was that somehow the Republican Party looks completely different, that the Republican Party is a con job when compared to Reagan. I want you to listen to this, but then I also want you to listen to Max Boot, who did intensive research on Reagan, what he had to say about Reagan and the then Republican Party as well. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
I don't call myself an evangelical because it's now a political phrase. I feel the same thing about people who claim the mantle of Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, it's amazing. The number of Republicans I run into who actually will believe and say that Trump is an heir to Reagan is amazing to me. There is this really remarkable con job that is taking place, I think, within the Republican Party, where very many Republicans actually still believe that the current Republican Party is part of that Reagan legacy, when it is a direct repudiation of that legacy. And this gap between what Trumpism is and what Ronald Reagan and who Ronald Reagan was and what he believed is immense. But it's surprising to me constantly that ordinary, everyday Republicans often don't recognize that. And I think one question I'd have for Max would be, is he seeing any element of that Reagan legacy still remnant, still remaining in a way that could be ignited again?
Well, there are certainly aspects of the Reagan legacy that are still around, but I think we also need to be fair and objective. And this is, this book that I wrote is not meant to be, it's neither a hagiography nor a hit job. It's really trying to tell the story of Reagan in a fair and balanced way. And I think when we do that, we also have to see that it wasn't all positive. It wasn't all sweetness and light. Reagan also had failures and weaknesses. And while there's many more differences than resemblances between Reagan and today's Republican Party, there are also some disturbing trend lines that have continued over the decades, including the fact that Reagan did engage in white backlash politics. He did use fake facts. There were aspects, he ignored a pandemic just as Donald Trump did. There are aspects of Reagan's legacy where you can see, this is how the Republican Party got from there to here. Even though I think the differences are much greater than the similarities, I think you also have to understand that there are also some disturbing continuities. And so I think we have to wrestle with the real Reagan, not just with the legend or the myths that have grown up around him.
So it's interesting, right? Yes, there are a lot of differences between Reagan and Trump. Reagan believed in immigration. Reagan understood that immigration was essential. Of course, he believed in that because that is what the corporatocracy wanted. But They also pointed out something that many people forgot. Remember that during the Reagan administration, we had the inception of AIDS. AIDS became that big illness of the day. And just like Trump wanted to push it aside, so did Ronald Reagan. Just as Trump create fallacies about not only policies, but otherwise, so did Reagan. After all, voodoo economics didn't come from progressives. It came from who again? El Señor Bush Sr. He realized that a lot of what Reagan was speaking about was hogwash. Now, it's true that Trump ain't no Reagan. In other words, Trump is a lot worse than Reagan. But Reagan wasn't all that good yourself. So you know that the generation of the Republican Party, Donald Trump just took it to the new level of what that party not is becoming, but what that party has always been and sliding to becoming just completely worse than what it has always been from the leadership of that party, which was always liars, which was always misrepresenting of facts, which really cared little about things like whenever there are pandemics or otherwise. Man, we shouldn't only say that Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to America. We have to say that the Republican Party leadership is a clear and present danger to America. And that is only factual base. And for good measure, do remember that the economy repeatedly and solidly always does better under the Democratic presidency. Anyhow, we need to look at things the way they are. We need a media that goes out and tell the truth, things that are substantive and things that matter. Absolutely so. We need a media that goes out and does its job. Breach MCP. Thank you so kindly for that super chat. Remember, folks, feel free to give a super chat or go ahead in whatever other faction to support the program. She says, I pray the ones who seem to exercise their bodies will exercise that other muscle, the brain. Breach, I couldn't agree with you more. By the way, I went into more depth with an article that I wrote on that subject that just came on the video in my Substack. I just put the link for that Substack into the chat. Check out that Substack. It is worth a read. Again, I repeat, it is worth a read. I spent some time writing that one. Michael Radin says, catch you later. We'll check in later tonight. Okay, guys, do you want me to do a live stream tonight as this stuff is going on? I can put a little bit of the thing in the backside if that's what you guys want. I think I can do that legally since it's going to be broadcast all over. I can probably go ahead and do a square broadcast in that. We'll see. So I tell you what, tell me, do you want a live simulcast so we can talk as we do the debate? Yes? Oh, you're going to give me work, Bretton, but I'm going to do it. So come back I'll start it at, let's say, 7:45, 15 minutes before. I'll do it 15 minutes before. I'll start it 15 minutes before it actually starts. And then we can chat and do the live stream live. Okay, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. I think it should be fun. So come back. Don't forget on YouTube. Yes, yeah, I'll go ahead and put it on YouTube too. Yeah, I'll put it on YouTube. In other words, I won't be talking while it's playing, I won't do that. But yeah, I'll have it in a corner because I don't think I can do this as a full thing. You know how that goes. I got to go find out. Anyway, let's go ahead and close this baby down. I'd like to ask those of you who are watching to support the program the best you can. How can you support our program? You can support our program by, first of all the forms of supporting the program can be found at politicsdoneright.com/support. That gives you all the options that you have in supporting what we do here. So I ask you kindly to consider becoming a supporter of the program, just like Breach gives us all of the time. Thank you, Breach, for what you do. Hasta luego, viva Valentín. Gracias por estar aquí. All right, now, if you become a paid subscriber of our newsletter, you get to read all of our books right away. Okay? And Egberto can talk during the breaks. Well, thanks for giving me permission, Brother Rodnin. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. Okay, let's see. So please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, and become a paid subscriber. And then you get a chance to read all our books. And guess what, guys? It's worth it. This is what our site looks like. That is the main site for the newsletter. And if you become a paid subscriber, look, you can get all our books free. Read it online free. As I see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. How to make America utopia. Take away the economy from those who rigged it. Likewise, it's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relative friends and neighbors. And Tribulations of a Afro-Latino Caribbean man. That's me, un Afro-Latino Caribbean. And you'll learn about, I guarantee you are going to love the book. So anyway, and if you want hard copies of the book, you can always go to Amazon and get the book. And let me give you the link. It's at politicsdoneright.com/books. If you want to get any one of our books, a hard copy, go to politicsdoneright.com/books. I repeat, politicsdoneright.com/books. That's the only way we can stay alive and continue doing this, if we get the support from our listeners, if we get people to sign up for memberships, if we get people to give super chats, if we get people to sign up for the newsletter and paid version of a newsletter. That is how you keep a viable, real truth teller. And again, we are rated as truth tellers. But anyhow, folks, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.